Welcome into 6 must-start fantasy football players for week 4. Alec, we are in week 4. This is the final week with no bye week. So, I think this is as starting next week, these start to get a little bit more fun, especially once you get into those middle tier bye weeks where you have 6 or 8 teams on a bye week and it gets really scary, right? Or maybe you have injuries kicking in too. But this is the final week without bye weeks, but we do have some injuries here, so this could come into play. But we have 6 must-start fantasy football players for week 4. Really quickly, before I turn it over to you, Alec, for your first player, we are running a giveaway right now. You can win a free signed NFL jersey from a big-name player. It'll be announced at 500 subscribers who the player is, and then given away at 1,000 subscribers. So the only criteria is you have to be subscribed. So hit the subscribe button. It's free, and it could win you a signed piece of NFL memorabilia. Having said that, Mr. Alec, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you for the your first player, your first must-start player of the week.
Yeah, so I'm starting this off early Sunday morning. So I'm going to go Jordan Mason here. They're playing in Europe on Sunday morning against the Steelers. So he's projected on Sleeper. I want you to double check this for me. I don't know if it's the league I'm in or something, but he's projected 18 in our one dynasty league. I just want to double check that.
Yes, I know I'm in a league that I always use for that's extremely standard. Yeah, no, you're correct. You're correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that's an extremely high number. It seems like
full PPR is the only. That's all it is.
And the crazy part is he's going to outscore 18 this week. So you need him in your lineup. You have him for. We talked about this last year when he popped off with the Niners. If he's going to be a bell cow, you just blindly start him in your lineup no matter what. He's a great NFL running back, especially when he gets all the touches. This past week against the Bengals, he looked good. I mean, we could have looked good this past weekend against the Bengals, but I think he has a big week coming up for him against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really like the matchup this week of Carson Wentz second game under center. It's kind of weird. It's going to be in Europe. So I kind of just like Jordan Mason to have a big game.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think this is the final week that we will be allowed to say Jordan Mason here because I think after this week it's going to be pretty much confirmed, right? You're not taking out of your starting lineup. But I do agree. This week is a guy. This is a week where you should be starting him over a lot of people. I mean, I think he averaged over 7 yards a carry, and I know what you can say. It's the Bengals defense. He also did not have an absurd amount of volume because that game didn't need him to. So when you give him a closer game, especially like kind of what we see these Europe games where they're kind of, like scrappy, right? I mean, you don't have a game that's like the Ravens-Lions game last night, right? We're recording this on Tuesday. You don't have a game like that that's just good offensive football, on both sides of the ball. You kind of get that scrappy feeling, especially with Carson Wentz being under center. I wouldn't be surprised if they lean on the run game more than what they typically do. And if you see Jordan Mason have 3, 4, 5 catches out of the backfield because it's Carson Wentz under center too. So I absolutely love Jordan Mason this week. I think the matchup against the Steelers don't have a bottom 5 run defense, but I don't think they have a top 5 rushing defense either. So I think it's one of those where, are you an elite rushing defense? No, you're certainly not a bad rushing defense, but given the situation of the volume and overall the style of game that we're expecting, I absolutely love Jordan Mason. I don't love him. I almost do, but I don't love him more than I love Omarion Hampton this week, which is my first guy here. Against the New York Giants, which don't get me wrong, New York Giants, their front 7 is playing very well right now. They're very talented, but Omarion Hampton is going to, from here on out, from the rest of the season, another guy that probably the last week that we can say Omarion Hampton is a must start, should not leave your lineup. He cannot leave your lineup. What we saw this past week, right? Najee Harris goes down with a torn Achilles with, I think, 5 minutes left in the second quarter. And the second that it's turned over to Hampton to be the bell cow, it's like, holy smokes, right? And I know you can say, oh, well, he was the bell cow in week 1. Look what happened. The Chiefs' rushing defense is spectacular. Very, very good defense. I mean, their defense in general is very good. So it was a tough matchup then, and it was his first career game, right? I think that what we're seeing out of Hampton now for moving forward, especially this week, though, when they haven't added help at all, right? You have Hassan Haskins as your RB2 right now. He's not taking any carries. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring somebody in, but they haven't done it yet. So especially for this week, Hampton is going to be a smash play. Last week, he had 25 touches, and he only played little over maybe 2.5 quarters without Najee Harris, right? So I absolutely love him. I think he also had, I mean, he had 7 targets last week, right? If this game is close at all, he's going to be setting up to be in a 5 to 7 targets again. If it's not close at all, they're going to be in a positive game script in which he's running the ball a lot. Those are the two options. You're not going to be handing it off to Hassan Haskins double-digit times, I don't think, unless you're up by 30. To be up by 30, Hampton's going to be going off. I love him this week. Projected nearly 16 points. Another one, high projection. He's gonna hit it though.
I love that this week. He's now the true bell cow. Like he already, we already thought he was going to kind of be anyway, even with Najee coming back into the fold. Like they were eventually going to give him the keys, but now that the Achilles injury for Najee kind of are forcing them to say, okay, all right, you're going to get 80% of the snaps, and we're just going to figure it out while you figure it out. This is a really good week for him to figure it out. I like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Over to you for your second one here.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Odunze here. So they're playing the Raiders this week. The scripted plays, the Ben Johnson scripted plays early in games, they always looked great in Detroit. They finally came to fruition last week against the Cowboys. Now the Cowboys defense is atrocious, but the Raiders isn't very good either. So I'm looking for kind of the momentum of the Bears from last week to kind of carry over into this week. I think Rome and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, if I'm kind of mistaking this, but I think on paper you would say DJ Moore's the one in this offense. But I think if you watch the game, then that Rome's the one now. I think he's going to take over as the one.
And when you said, correct me if I say this, I knew exactly what you were going to say.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to correct you. It is true. Like, if you didn't look at depth charts and you didn't know anyone's name and you just watched the first 3 games of the season for the Chicago Bears, you would say very clearly Rome Odunze is their wide receiver one. He's their best receiver. And I think that talent-wise and overall performance-wise, he is. And he's going to be. Depth chart, like we said, they won't change the depth chart to put Rome Odunze above DJ Moore. That does nothing but ruin DJ Moore's confidence. There's no benefit in that. The rest of the season, in one wide receiver sets, you will see probably 50% of DJ Moore, 50% of Rome Odunze. And in any 2 wide receiver set, Odunze probably is your primary route. Like, Odunze has been spectacular. I love it. And like you said, Vegas's passing defense isn't that great. It has not been.
Yeah. And he's projected 14.5 this week. I think he always has touchdown upside in this offense. I mean, he has 3 straight weeks with a touchdown, I believe.
Yeah, 3 straight weeks and 4 total. So
yeah, 4 total. Yeah. So I mean, I really like Odunze this week to kind of keep up the momentum with Ben Johnson and Caleb.
And the one thing I will say too with Odunze is we've seen in college he was elite down the field, like downfield plays to hit those big chunk plays, the 40, 50-yarders. Now I know he had a 35-yard touchdown last week. That was a great, like you said, great play drawn up from Ben Johnson. He was wide open, but we really haven't seen him and Caleb connect on a deep ball yet. And Rome Odunze certainly has that. Even last week, Rome Odunze had, I believe, 18 points, right? Roughly 6 for 60 and a touchdown. And Caleb Williams missed him on at least a 20-yard out route. He missed him on another 10-yard, extended the play and had him and missed him. So Odunze is open and getting the ball thrown to him and has still being missed on routes. And I think as Caleb Williams and Odunze continue to develop this chemistry, and I think Caleb Williams just continues to settle into this offense and his NFL career, Odunze's stock will continue to rise. I love Odunze this week. I think he's, what'd you say he's projected 14?
14 and a half. 14 and a half.
I would expect him to be, 15 plus very comfortably. And then, like you said, he's got the 20 plus upside with the touchdown. So I'm going to go to receiver here too, and I'm going to target your Cincinnati Bengals, which is going to be a repetitive thing for probably all year, unfortunately. But I think it's Courtland Sutton against Cincinnati. He's currently projected of 13.5, and I think that Courtland Sutton, you look at his overall performance in the year. You're saying I think he's the wide receiver 17 right now in PPR. That's not great. That's not somebody that I'm sitting here saying I need to be starting him no matter what. He had one off week, right? He had one off week last week, or 2 weeks ago, technically now, right, against Indianapolis. The 2 weeks, weeks 1 and 3, he had 7, 8 targets each week. And when he gets, or 8 or 9 targets, when he gets that target volume, he's played great. And I know he had a touchdown both of those weeks, but he had decent weeks without a touchdown, right? I believe this last week he would have had 17 points without a touchdown. So Courtland Sutton is in a great spot against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. I know that they just got absolutely walloped by the Vikings, not to rub salt in the wound here, Alec, but absolutely walloped by the Vikings. They averaged like 8 yards per attempt, the Vikings did, per passing attempt. And Jettas had 7 targets for 90 and had 95 yards. So I think that Courtland Sutton, as you give him 8 or 9 targets, I really, really, really think that he's going to be able to go for 100 plus. And if you're giving me a crummy passing defense with the clear-cut wide receiver one, I know after week 2, everyone was like Troy Franklin, right? I mean, Courtland Sutton's the alpha in this offense, right? Other guys can have good weeks. Courtland Sutton is the alpha. You're giving me the alpha against a rough passing defense that's only projected 13.5 points. I absolutely love that this week. And final comment here, you get them on Monday Night Football, and that's always just a blast to have one guy, you're down 18 points, and you need 18 points, 18.1 out of Courtland Sutton. Having anybody on Monday Night Football is always a blast, and I think the matchup's good too.
Yeah, no, I definitely like the matchup this week. I think Courtland Sutton is definitely the alpha there. And especially, I mean, Bo Nix is right now, after 3 weeks, is PFF's worst rated quarterback. I don't think that continues. So, I mean, with we know the QB plays, I mean, it has to improve. I mean, literally, it has to improve. He's the worst graded. Yeah, I really like that this week, especially kind of Bo Nix probably getting back on track against the Bengals at home on Monday night. I like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, your quarterback, I mean, kind of similar to what we were saying with Caleb Williams and Odunze. When you have Bo Nix, who's a very competent, capable quarterback, a good quarterback, that is missing throws he should not be missing, when he stops missing those throws, who's going to benefit here? It's going to be Courtland Sutton, and
it's going to be our fantasy teams.
It's going to be our fantasy teams. It's unlikely he misses too many throws against the Bengals.
Yeah. I mean, well, you can't miss people that are wide open. You don't miss very many people that are wide open, but So we lost last week because of the turnovers, not because of Jettas. But
correct.
Yeah.
No, correct.
For Carson Wentz.
Right, and absolutely. Well, and that's the thing is they didn't need to throw the ball at any point.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Jettas had 95 yards. So if the Bengals can keep it close for a quarter and make the Broncos have 3 or 4 drives where they have to put their best foot forward, Sutton could have 100 yards in 3 or 4 drives. Like, he literally could. And if he has to play the entire game, I really, really like it. But
yeah, no, I totally agree. And then so my last guy. So this is a Thursday night guy. We don't usually do this. It's going to be Trey Benson, but the opportunity here is just too good. We like running backs that are going to have the majority of the opportunity. So James Conner, was it officially an ankle for James Conner?
I think they said
or a foot.
It's one of the two. Out for season ending, I know, but I don't.
Season ending, it sucks. I really like James Conner. Like, he's a good dude. It sucks for James Conner. Trey Benson, we thought he was going to be their quote 1B this year. Turned out that it wasn't quite like a 1B, more like a 2A. But Trey Benson is going to have a insane utility, opportunity share for the rest of the year. This backfield, they have Amari DeMercado is like their second RB now. He's kind of a scat back. Trey Benson was really highly rated as a prospect. I mean, he was like actually pretty good as a prospect. So I think they're going to let him kind of have his run at this starting RB role, because James Conner they can cut next year, I think, for like only $2 million dead cap. So this is Trey Benson's run to be their RB1 for the future. And I think he really takes advantage of it when he's going to get 75-80% of the snaps.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it. Look, Seattle's rushing defense is a very good rushing defense, but the volume's going to be absurd. And I also think that you look at Trey Benson, like you were saying, an elite prospect coming out of Florida State, obviously had the injury that cut his season short, and I think hurt his draft profile a lot. I mean, if he doesn't get injured, we probably talk about him in the first round, because he was such a good prospect. I mean, he's 6 foot 220. He runs with power. He's agile, good in the passing game. So I think that the passing game part is going to be something that gives me a lot of the safety net here, right? The Seahawks rushing defense has been good, but I mean, already last week, I believe he had 6 targets, 4 catches. Trey Benson did. So you're giving me a running back who, with James Conner, had 6 targets, 4 catches last week or 2 weeks ago in week 2, and then had, I believe, 3 or 4 catches this week as well. So you're giving me a safety net of that 6 points with 0 rushing yards, right? So then you have a guy that's going to get probably 18 at least carries and is plenty capable of breaking one. And the Cardinals' rushing offense attack is plenty good, right? I mean, I think that's something that when you have a quarterback that's as quick as Kyler Murray, the rushing attack looks different because the defensive line has to react differently, right? It's part of what makes Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson so dangerous because defensive ends can't collapse down. They have to stay, stay honest on the edge and set the edge. So I really, really like it this week. And I'm curious to see a 1 week of true bell cow work for Trey Benson and what's the upside. I mean,
I mean, and he's only projected 12, so I don't know if Sleeper hasn't caught up yet, or but 12 seems, even against Seattle, like you said, elite rush defense, still seems a little low.
Yes, I would agree. And something else that seems really low is TreVeyon Henderson against Carolina. That's the 6th and final guy here of the show, but TreVeyon Henderson is somebody that I'm in a lot of leagues. I drafted, or I have him. I own a lot of stock of him in a lot of leagues, and I've been starting him in every single week. And I will start him again this week because, yes, I've been burned by him. Fortunately, there's still a couple leagues where I've been saved by some other guys. There's a couple leagues where I have not been saved, but I think Henderson this week, what you had last week is what we thought we were going to maybe not see, 2 fumbles out of Ramondre, but we thought we were going to see the clear-cut difference in the running backs a little earlier than what we did. What we saw last week is Antonio Gibson with the fumble. Why is Antonio Gibson touching the ball instead of your 2nd-round draft pick, TreVeyon Henderson? Everybody was asking that question, and Mike Vrabel didn't care. You'd like to think Mike Vrabel would have a little bit of maybe even home run hitting to the Ohio State guy. I don't know. But so you have Antonio Gibson loses a fumble. You have Ramondre Stevenson, who led the NFL in fumbles lost last year with 2 fumbles lost in the same game. They win this game if they have 0 running back fumbles. I know May also had a fumble, but if you just take away the running back fumbles, they win this game. I truly believe, I don't care what Vrabel said, or we're still going to run with a committee. Henderson, from then on out, took all of the snaps, pretty much, virtually all of the snaps at the running back position. He is the most talented running back. He's been waiting on his opportunity. This is the opportunity of your running backs that you're playing above him have just cost you a win in the National Football League. Mike Vrabel, open your eyes and play Henderson. I know he's saying that's going to be committee. I wouldn't be surprised if Henderson comes out and has 12 to 15 touches this week again, like he did last week. I just think they're going to be a little bit more valuable, especially when you put it in the fact that you're playing against the Carolina Panthers rushing defense. I know what you can say, and that Bijan didn't have an elite week this past week, but he averaged like 5.5, 6 yards a carry, and he had 2 literal shoestring tackles that saved 70-yard touchdowns on both of them. And Bijan was this close to having a 30-point week without including receiving work. So in Henderson, I think his explosiveness is similar to Bijan, right? I mean, I'm not saying he's Bijan, but his explosiveness on an outside zone, when the safety comes up, if you're not going to make the tackle, he's gone. And I think Henderson has that ability, and Carolina is very, very susceptible to getting a home run hit on him. I love TreVeyon Henderson this week. He's only projected 8.8. This is my final week. After this week, I'm sitting him for a couple weeks, but I really, really like him here, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is this is why I drafted him in the 4th round week.
Yeah, and I think this might be the start of his runway, where it's like okay, both guys fumbled last week. Maybe he's not over Ramondre yet, but I think he'll definitely play over Gibson now.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, take a couple of Gibson's touches, maybe a couple of Ramondre's touches, like you said, somewhere between that 12 to 15. And if he gets 15 touches a game, he's scoring more than 8.8 fantasy points.
Yes. Well, and part of it too is, everything's setting up, right? Where his first week where he should be, increasing in touches and almost dominant in the backfield is also a week in which you're probably against a bottom 3 rushing defense in the league. So everything is setting up for TreVeyon Henderson to have a week like what we said. if you're not going to be 1A, but you're also not just 2 behind 1A, 1B, right? You had 1A of Ramondre, 1B of Antonio Gibson somehow, and option 2 of TreVeyon Henderson. He's going to be 1B and really like a 1AB almost. Like, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised if Ramondre gets a start, but the leash is shorter and Antonio Gibson is just hardly ever on the field. And like you said, the 15 touches against the Carolina defense, I don't care who it is. I want it. And 15 touches with an extremely explosive back in TreVeyon Henderson, who is coming into this week saying, I need one good week in the backfield's mine. I absolutely love it.
I love TreVeyon to end it here. I really do. I think he could be the one that kind of like explodes this week, and we're like, dang, he really got 20 PPR points this week.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And he was drafted at a spot for a reason, and we haven't seen it yet because the volume hasn't been there. We haven't seen him really get good blocks on a screen pass yet. We haven't seen him get an outside zone where he's able to hit the hole at 12 miles an hour. We haven't seen it yet, and we're going to at some point. And as soon as you do, everyone's going to say, holy smokes, that was a 65-yard touchdown immediately because he hit the hole. So I absolutely love Henderson this week. But those are 6 guys that we think you need to be starting this week in fantasy football. Alec, I feel really good about a 6-for-6 week here. We talk about it all the time, but there are 6 hammer plays there that we really like. So having said that, this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.